Hi there, happy December. Welcome to the Open here on BNN Bloomberg. Let's have a look at those US equity futures. Before we get going, we can see that there is some selling going on. Bloomberg reckons it's partly because of the weakness in Bitcoin. Investors wondering, well, if risk money's coming out of Bitcoin, should we be selling some of our soaring tech stocks as well? Speaking of which, let's have a look at Bitcoin because it saw fresh selling today. Whoops, down 6% below $87,000. Let's have a look now at oil, see how it's faring amid the usual cross currents. Oil moving higher this morning, but still stuck below $60. And let's have a look at how the TSX traded on Friday. Our market, of course, hitting record highs last week. Could well come under pressure today if U.S. stocks stay weak. And let's have a look at NVIDIA and the pre-market. I'm not sure if we can do that, if there's time to do that. Great benchmark for U.S. tech sentiment. There's how it traded last week, up 31% in the past year, but well down from its highs. Money coming out of NVIDIA, people just keep hearing that B word. The fear of a bubble in AI stocks weighing on some of these big tech names. And finally, let's have a look at gold, because gold sometimes a retreat in times of uncertainty, and gold gaining again, moving back to those record highs that we saw a few weeks ago, moving back at this rate anyway. And silver, maybe we can have a quick look at silver, because silver last week, spot silver, hit a new all-time high, and it's part of that move into precious metals. Let's get more on the markets with our first guest on the show. We are joined by Brian Ventig. Brian Ventig of MJP Partners. Always great to see you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Give us your take on the markets right now. It does seem there's a frisson of fear around these tech stocks.
Yeah, good morning, Andrew. I think, investors are hedging a little bit after a strong week last week. And, all eyes are on next week's Fed rate decision. And we have some inflation numbers coming out on Friday for the month of September. I think at the end of the day, though, when you look back at the companies that have reported so far for Q3 earnings, they've definitely exceeded analyst expectations with year-over-year growth of about 13%, with expectations going into the quarter around 8 to 9%. I think right now, when we look at, some deleveraging coming out of crypto, yen, interest rates going up actually in Japan, affecting, currency. I mean, today's just a day, I think we're taking a little bit of profits coming off of a strong week last week.
You think it is a time to consider owning more dividend-paying stocks?
Well, I mean, I don't think the AI investment trade is completely a bust. I think there is concerns about valuation and CapEx spending. Can this continue at these levels next year? And I think the spending will probably moderate, but I still think there's productivity gains and societal benefits that AI is going to play out, which will help companies' profits and bottom lines. But opportunities do exist because of earnings growth and expansion of multiples in areas outside of tech. We see those in outlooks for 2026. So looking at mid-cap stocks, value, dividend-oriented stocks, as you mentioned, Andrew, as well as I think, within that dividend complex, healthcare, industrials, financials are some areas to keep an eye on.
Are you talking Canada or the States here?
Well, I think generally speaking, domestic and international on that value side make a lot of sense. If you look at Canada specifically, let's talk about commodity-based businesses. I think that's a good uplift when considering changes in currency valuation. I think financial sector overall for the North American continent is an opportunity with a steepening yield curve. But when you look at valuations, international equities do present an opportunity, especially if you believe that U.S. dollar strength would moderate or be benign over the course of 26. So it all comes back to earnings at the end of the day. We're not foreseeing a recession next year. The Fed's moving more neutral, and those are things that help to support equity valuations.
What is your feeling on oil and energy right now?
Well, I think right now, on an overall basis for oil, it feels like there's a little bit of a supply glut, a little bit more supply than demand. But when you look at outlooks for energy requirements over the balance of this decade, there's still a strong demand for all types of energy, oil being included. So, do we expect prices to really spike up in the oil complex over the next 12 months or so? Not really, but do we expect that there's a demand for electricity and other sources of energy inputs into the supply chain? Absolutely. When you think about some of the investments that are happening in the infrastructure as well as the electrification space in supporting AI innovation.
And one type of stock that you are interested in owning is the big software security stocks. And not necessarily Palo Alto Networks, I know, but names like that anyway.
Yeah, I think, software's been in a penalty box, over the course of this year. And recently, in the last couple of weeks, we've seen a pullback in cybersecurity. And I think, over the course of next year, there's going to be more and more demand as things continue to be built out in the AI innovation trend, that software is going to necessarily, and cybersecurity has to be part of that equation. Plus, with so many different cybersecurity and software offerings that are out there, we expect that in a lower interest rate environment, there's probably going to be an uptick in M&A, which might also be quite beneficial for shareholders.
We'll have to leave it there. Brian, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Brian Vendig of MJP Partners. Lots more coming up. Thanks very much for joining us on The Open this morning. Restaurants and stores are gearing up for the holiday season. What are people's hiring prospects, though, getting temporary jobs for the holidays? CTV's Sarah Plowman filed this report.
At malls across Canada, people are hunting for a deal and some a job. Jaden Flexman landed her holiday gig at Hickory Farms, where she'll sell gourmet meats and cheeses into January.
It was a lot of applying online. There was about 200 online applications I'd done, if not more.
According to the job search site Indeed.com, holiday hiring is up 12% compared to last year, but companies aren't posting as many positions as they did 2 or 3 years ago.
There are going to be a few more options potentially out there. At the same time, job seekers are potentially competing with more of their peers.
Bernard says it's been a tough market for job seekers the past few years. Canada's unemployment rate is about 7%. The youth unemployment rate is double that.
To really get the labor market moving in the right direction, we just need a stronger overall economy.
To help keep up with holiday demand, Endeavours and ThinkPlay in Fredericton posted one seasonal job. More than 180 applied.
We have combed through all of those resumes.
People with retail experience, but surprisingly, a lot of nurses too.
A lot of the applicants I noticed, there were multiple current positions and they're looking for a second, a third.
In Brandon, Manitoba, Toy Masters brought on new staff, including students, but had to turn dozens of people away.
It really breaks my heart to see how hard it is for a lot of these young adults and kids to be finding jobs these days.
Come January, Flexman will have another job. She has advice for anyone searching.
Just keep in mind budgeting, and paper resumes do still work sometimes, so don't give up on those.
Tips to digest when there's no avoiding a challenge. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
The Open will be right back. Barrick Mining considering a spin-off of its valuable operations, by far the most valuable, the North American, and also the huge mine that they have partly owned in the Dominican Republic. So this could be an IPO of those assets with Barrick retaining control. Let's get more from our own Lindsay Biscaya. Lindsay.
Yeah, and the company really just coming out with this statement today, Andy, talking about that, the consideration now of an IPO. The company says it has now, the board has authorized management to now look into this and explore the idea of an IPO, the subsidiary Newco. So if this idea was actually to go ahead, the spinoff will be anchored by Barrick's mines in Nevada and Dominican Republic, as you mentioned, so it's North American assets. And Barrick would apparently retain a majority interest in that spinoff. We know management now looking into this, exploring the measures through early 2026, with an update expected in February, so not too far away from now, about 2 months. Any decision, though, would still require board approval. So this is fresh, but it comes at a time when Barrick Mining has been in the news quite a bit.
Yeah, we had the abrupt departure of the CEO.
Yes.
And it's interesting. So they have, you mentioned this, it's a joint venture in Nevada with Newmont. And National Bank is speculating that this spinoff could well be a target for Newmont, this new company. Newmont could try to buy it.
Yeah, Newmont has been really interested in Barrick Mining for a while, particularly this mine in Nevada. It's been studying a deal to gain control of this mine in Nevada. This was a really big discovery by Barrick. It was named as, this gold mine in Nevada was named as one of the most significant gold discoveries of the century.
The 4 mile,
Yes, the 4 Mile
yeah.
project, and it's 100% owned by Barrick at the moment. So obviously Barrick has not been doing as well as its other gold peers this year when it comes to that gold rush and seeing benefit from it. But there is obviously a lot of interest in this lucrative, what is supposed to be an incredibly lucrative mine in Nevada, that 4 Mile project. And Bloomberg, of course, has also been reporting that Elliott Management has built a significant stake in Barrick Mining. That was a couple of weeks ago. We heard those reports. Still trying to get that confirmed by Barrick this morning. But obviously, there's a lot of interest in Barrick, and we know that Elliott Management was pressuring the company to split into two, one with the North American assets, the others over in Pakistan, Papua New Guinea, and Mali. So two separate entities. There was rumblings that within the company, management was pressuring other management to do this as well, make that split, because that North American side of things, the North American assets were so lucrative, and now it appears that the company is really starting to look into that.
Lindsay, thanks very much indeed. Lindsay Biscaya joining us there. Plenty more coming up. The Open will be right back. So the BC Premier, David Eby, has expressed vehement opposition to a pipeline across BC, but apparently there might be room for manoeuvre here. John Venevalo Rao, our colleague at CTV News, filed this report.
Just days ago, BC's Premier stepped up to a microphone and suggested the pipeline agreement he was left out of was never going to amount to anything.
No proponent, no route, no money, no First Nation support.
But on CTV's Question Period, David Eby now says he is open to discussing a pipeline project running through his province if there are no changes to the federal tanker ban.
If we can agree that the oil tanker ban is going to stay in place, then let's have those conversations. I think that would make life a lot better and easier in British Columbia in terms of our relationship with coastal First Nations, and would definitely take down the temperature.
Put in place 6 years ago, the ban prohibits larger tankers from docking at ports along BC's north coast if they're carrying lots of crude or certain types of oil. It's in place to protect some delicate ecosystems. Eby says an exemption would anger First Nations groups and put existing energy projects in jeopardy, and suggested another option, increasing capacity of the existing Trans Mountain pipeline.
Trying to find a path forward, trying to de-escalate tensions with our neighbors, trying to understand their concerns, what they would like to do, and I really hope they do the same for us.
The Memorandum of Understanding signed with Alberta has already cost the Prime Minister a cabinet minister and longtime environmentalist. And Alberta Premier Danielle Smith was booed by grassroots members when she said this at her party's annual general meeting.
I hope people today feel a lot more confident that Canada works than they did a couple of days ago.
As for BC's premier, he had vehemently opposed a new bitumen pipeline, and some noting a change in tone.
EB is not slamming the door. He's not having a fit. He wants some of the projects that of his own that involve fossil fuels, especially liquefied natural gas, to go through. And he mentions tens of billions of dollars of current projects and tens of billions more.
Meanwhile, EB has said he'd also like to explore things like boosting the country's capacity to refine petroleum as opposed to buying gas from the U.S.